Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with Podcast 28. And here are today's 5 investor questions. Remember, in order to have your question asked, send it to support@bsffacademy.com. That is support@bsffacademy.com. Here we go. Question number 1. How does one determine the worth value of a house? That's an outstanding question and a lot of work. First of all, naturally, we're going to pull a CMA from a realtor. We're going to pull a CMA from public record. And those are going to give us some guidelines of what things are actually selling for, what are on the market, what's sold, what's pended, those kinds of things. The CMA from the realtor will. The one from the public record is going to give us what has sold. The nice thing about that one is it's always going to be a little bit lower than the CMA from the realtor side because it's taking in consideration all the investor straight purchases from sellers, the interspousals, the family transfers, those kinds of things that don't need a realtor, and they can do it for less money because there's not a realtor involved. Then you're going to look at your subject property and how it compares to those properties. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to do a 6-pack. And a 6-pack is interviewing 3 solds and 3 on the markets. And you're going to determine what those 6 houses have that as they compare to your house. So let's assume for a second that your house has Formica countertops, a shake roof, or a composition shingle roof. And these 6 houses all have granite countertops and tile roofs. Well, naturally, you're going to have to give some allowances or some reductions on your subject property because your subject property doesn't have those things. What we really want to try to do when we look at those and do that 6-pack is we're wanting to find houses that are within 5 years of age from a built perspective, 200 square feet or 15%, whichever is larger. We want to be like-type bedrooms and bathrooms, so we want to go 3 and 2s and don't compare them to a 4 and 2 or a 2 and 2. We want like-type construction, so kind of not take a A-frame house and compare it to that, and not a flat roof house. And then we want to be within at least a half a mile. I'd like to have at least a quarter mile, but sometimes we have to stretch a little bit further. And we want to compare them. So when we do that, typically we're going to have like-type properties. So we're not going to have the huge span of Formica and granite, but we could. And if we do, we have to make adjustments. But let's just say, for instance, that we're interviewing those 6 houses, and some of the questions we ask them, not the house, but the owners of the house and the sellers of the house, is what kind of concessions they're going to offer. And are they going to do anything? Did the seller that they bought from, did they do anything? Did they put new carpet in, paint the house, give a roof cert, those kinds of things? Was there a realtor involved? Because we need to mitigate that value when we look at the worth value of the property we're going to buy, because we're not going to have any of those things, or we could have some of those things. And so we just have to compare. So understanding the worth value is a little bit difficult. But you're looking at the CMAs, and then you're going to go out there and interview houses that are like type in the neighborhood and see how it compares. And you're going to do your pluses and minuses, much like an appraiser would do, and come to exactly the value of the property. Now, a lot of us get really caught up on the ARV as it compares to the as-is. And an ARV is if you have your comparable sales and they have all granite countertops and tile roofs, and your property has Formica and shake roof, well, what is it going to cost you? We know that if you changed it and you made it granite and tile, then your ARV would be whatever those other houses sold for. And then when you have to back out and you want to go, because we always want to know what an as-is is, and there's formulas for that. But say, for instance, your subject property and all of your comparable sales and your actives and solds are the same house. So they're all the same. So they all have Formica and they all have comp roofs and they all have non-remodeled kitchens, and they're 15 years old, and that's what they are, or 20 years old, and nothing's really been done to them. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're all equal. Well, then I would suggest that you don't have an ARV issue, you have an as-is issue. So now we know as is, that property is what it's worth. And then you have to subtract, again, the costs of whatever the concessions are, the buyer concessions from the seller, the realtor fees, and those kinds of things, to get to the truest price that the seller actually sold for, because that's what we want to compare and price ours by. So great question. Question number 2. Have you ever had a seller renegotiate after learning that you will sell for such a substantial profit? I've had them try, but in my agreement, which I think is one of the better agreements out there, it actually says the seller has the right to cancel the contract. However, if they do, they have to pay me $50,000 or 25% of the sales price. On the 4 occasions that someone has wanted to renegotiate with me, all I did was ask their attorneys to read that paragraph that they signed as liquidated damages. Their attorney couldn't believe that their client would actually sign a document that had that in there, that restriction. I have it in there so I don't have sellers going sideways on me. So all of them, they decided to go ahead and sell me the house. And you know what? It's not my fault. We agreed to a fair price. The sellers are always saying yes. I've never bought a house from a seller who didn't agree with the sales price. They may have wanted to change their mind later, but you know what? They don't have that opportunity. I did not give them that opportunity inside the agreement. We signed a binding contract, and that's what it's for. It's to bind both parties to the agreement. That would be no different than me saying, I want to spend less money on your house now. Well, the contract is the contract, and I don't have the right to spend less money on the house, and they don't have the right to spend more money on the house. So make sure your contract is a worthy contract and not just a notepad. Question number 3. When speaking with out-of-state owners, is the entire process done over the phone, or do you require an in-person meeting and inspection of the property? The entire negotiation process is done over the phone, because I am not going to fly anywhere, and typically they're not going to fly to my area. And that's one of the nice things about our program is through FedEx and fax machines and email and all that kind of good stuff, we can get all the documents that we need to that seller. And we have closing companies in every city. So we can orchestrate the closing in any city. We have traveling notaries, so I can send a traveling notary out to the property to get my memorandum of contract signed. We have realtors in every city who will go out there and give me a BPO, an interior and an exterior, for $175 or $225. We have roofing contractors. We have termite contractors in every area that will go out there and give me the reports I need. So I never need to see the property. So I never need to meet the owner. All the owner cares about is my cash. All I care about is they have a house to sell me. We're not going to be best friends when this thing's all done. We might be good acquaintances, but we're not going to be best friends. So I'm not looking to build relationships. I'm looking to buy houses for massive amounts of money. So there are tools out there at our fingertips that we can utilize and buy houses from people out of state, and we can buy houses out of state of your state. So fall forward, soldier. Question number 4, and it's a scenario question. Homes in Mrs. Investor's area have a median sales price at $250,000. Should her approach model change with these higher priced houses? Absolutely not. What she should do is if she was my coaching student, the first thing that she would do is she would run a marketing algorithm or marketing chart on our area. We'd look at all the zip codes. We determine things like how many houses are in a zip code, how many of those are cash purchased within the last so many months by an investor, how many of those are in foreclosure status, REO status, what's the median, what's the average days on market, how many houses are under 2/3 median and 1/3 median. When we start laying our algorithms over it, we'll be able to determine exactly in the market that investor's in, who they should be marketing to. And if it's a $250,000 market, that's just what it is. And we're going to find the houses. Remember, median means equal amounts of houses above that number and below that number. So there's an enormous amount of folks who will have a city where they'll have a median of, say, 400,000. And when we start running our algorithm models and our median models, we'll notice that they have huge amounts of inventory sitting below 2/3 of median. Well, the beauty of that, the real great thing about that, the exciting thing about that is the amount of money someone can make in a market where a lot of the inventory is sitting at 2/3 of median or below. That's when you know you're going to have some cash coming at you really quick. Man, that would be exciting to have that kind of market. Question number 5. It's a scenario question. I love scenario questions. You guys are great at sending these things in. I love them. Keep them coming. Mr. Investor is speaking with a motivated seller. When asked how much they want to sell a house for, the seller gives Mr. Investor a great price. How should Mr. Investor react to this great news? He should act like he acts when the seller says the bad price, because what we do not want to do is let the seller know or make the seller think that they just said something silly. We do not want to make the seller think they said the wrong answer. So if someone says to me, they have a house for $250,000, and I ask them, after I clarify how I buy houses and the techniques in which I do, and what the benefits are to that person, I asked them how much they were hoping to walk away with, the amount of money they're going to put in their back pocket after we subtract what's owed against the property, how much they wanted to just walk away with. And that number is so significantly low that, of course, I don't have to say anything else except get a contract signed. I still have to ask that person, is that the least you'll take? After I pause for 8 seconds. So here's how that sounds. So, knowing how I buy houses, what were you thinking about putting in your pocket, what I call the walkaway money? The amount of money that you believe is fair that you'll receive after we subtract what's owed against the property so you can get this house sold on the day of your choice. What amount of money were you wanting? And they give me a number. Say they give me a number that's ridiculous, $25,000. In my mind, I'm going to count 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,005, 1,006, 1,007, 1,008. 8 seconds after they answered my question, they're going to get all excited about what they said, what they say. Was it right? Was it wrong? They're just going, they don't know what to say because they're waiting for me to respond. I haven't responded yet. But I will. After 8 seconds, I'm going to say, $25,000. Wow. Can you see yourself doing better than that? And then I'm going to shut up. I'm going to wait. It's hard to get me to shut up, but when we're talking money, I'm going to shut up. And they're going to say, well, maybe 22.5. I'm going to say 22.5. Really? Is that the lowest you'll go? And then I'm going to shut up some more. I'm going to ask them my 3 questions. And when I decide that I've asked them enough and I know that they're ready to sell me their house and I'm ready to buy their house, I'm going to say, so what I'm hearing you say, I'm not saying I can, but if I could give you $20,000 walk away money, cover all the other expenses, all the costs, pay off that mortgage, pay off the property taxes, take care of all the things we've talked about, buy it in as-is condition, give that cash to you on the day of your choice. Are you saying you'd sell them the house for the $20,000? They say, yes. I say, great, let's go to the kitchen table. We're going to fill out the documents that we're going to use to get you that $20,000, and we're going to fall forward and get a contract signed. So that's how easy it is, folks. But you have to be patient. You have to understand embedded commands and mimicking and pacing and positive and negative reinforcements. And you got to ask the hard questions. The hard questions are the ones that set you free. My goodness, if you don't ask the question, it's already a no answer. So you got to ask the question. And in most times, you're going to take someone down $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. If you bought 10 houses this year and you got $5,000 price lower, a lower price on by $5,000 on each of those 10, how much is that? That's $50,000. My goodness, it pays to ask the tough questions. We're there to buy houses. Remember, we're not there to look at a house. We're not there to appraise a house. We're not there to make nicey nice with the seller. We're there to buy a house, and they're there. Guess what they're there for? They're there to sell us a house. So you don't have to, build relationships to buy houses. You just have to say things on purpose. This one's been fun. I appreciate whoever sent in the questions. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.